Well, it's time now for a look at the latest business news and a looming deadline for Russia and its debt. Our business editor, Stephen Carroll, is here in studio with more.
Russia faces the prospect, Sharon, of its first default on international debt in more than 100 years. Moscow is due to pay more than $100 million in interest payments today. Now, it's the first foreign currency debt deadline for Moscow since the invasion of Ukraine, and it's not clear whether or not it will be able to pay. Sanctions have made the transfer of foreign currency much more difficult, especially as the central bank's reserves have been frozen. On top of that, a presidential decree issued earlier this month allows for Russian debts to be paid to foreign creditors in rubles, but the terms of these bonds don't allow that. In total, Moscow is expected to pay $117 million today. If it doesn't, it has a 30-day grace period before it's declared officially in default. This isn't the only deadline looming for Russia, though. In total, the country needs to repay more than $700 million by the end of this month. Let's turn next to what's happening on the stock markets for you. And we're seeing a huge rebound in markets in Hong Kong and China. That's after sharp falls they'd seen earlier this week. Shares soaring over 8% on the Hang Seng in Hong Kong. This was after China's Vice Premier Liu He hinted that Beijing could take steps to boost the economy and take steps favourable to capital markets. Remember, these are markets that had already been rattled by the war in Ukraine, but fears of the economic impact from COVID-19 lockdowns in China had sent shares tumbling. Technology shares had been hammered in recent days. The Hang Seng Tech Index today up around 20% in trading. A reminder that the Hang Seng market was down by almost 6% at the end of trading yesterday. Had similar falls on Monday as well, so we're still not back to a level that we were before this sell-off started. We are keeping an eye on oil prices for you today as well. After the big falls that we've seen in recent days there, the international benchmark Brent crude has turned positive today, up over $100 a barrel again, 103 in trading today. Still far off the peaks of $139 a barrel that we saw at the start of the Russian invasion. WTI crude also at just under $99 a barrel there. Here in France, meanwhile, protesters have blockaded fuel depots in the west of the country, demonstrating against high prices at the pump. Now, the demonstrators include fishermen and truck drivers who are unhappy with how the government is handling the crisis. The French Prime Minister is expected to announce a package of aid measures later today. Joseph Keane has the story.
A pile of burning tyres and other objects block the entrance to this fuel depot in the French town of Lorient. This transport boss is expecting to spend a number of nights in his truck.
Regardez, les réservoirs sont vides. Voilà. Là, le véhicule va rester là et moi, ce soir, je reste là. Voilà, j'ai un confrère qui est là aussi. On reste là ce soir, voilà.
These truck contractors have been impacted by the heightened price of fuel. They're demanding that fuel taxes are frozen.
Tant que le carburant ne revient pas à 1,30 €, le prix normal, 1,20 €, 1,30 €, tant qu'il ne revient pas à ce prix-là, il faut geler les taxes pour pas que les entreprises aillent au gouffre.
This agricultural contractor spends thousands each year to fill the tanks of these vehicles. Now the price of fuel has doubled, but he doesn't want the farmers he works with to bear the brunt.
Moi, je pense à mes clients, oui. Parce que c'est mes clients et je me vois mal leur mettre une augmentation si grande que ça. Et déjà qu'ils ils peuvent plus.
Truck drivers from across the region converged on the depot, then moved to the coastal city of Brest to join another blockade by mostly fishermen.
Depuis 8 jours, on est stoppé. On est le long du quai, le prix du carburant étant trop fort, on n'arrive pas je ne peux pas dégager un salaire pour mes gars, donc on a préféré stopper le navire.
Further blockades are expected, but this protest movement in the west of France could well spread to the rest of the country.
Trading in nickel is set to resume in London later today after wild price swings triggered a market shutdown last week. The London Metal Exchange has introduced more trading limits. That means that prices will only be able to move by a maximum of 5% when trading gets back underway. Nickel has jumped above a record of $100,000 per tonne after a market bet by a major Chinese investor went wrong, sending prices skyrocketing. Traders hoping for calmer seas when things begin trading there in London in about 35 minutes' time. Finally for me, the owner of Pizza Hut and KFC has seen a huge slump in its business in China as COVID cases surge there. Yum China says that more than 1,000 of its outlets have been temporarily closed or restricted to takeaway only due to lockdown measures. For the first 2 weeks of March, sales plunged by 20%. Now, many businesses in China have been shut down by regional health measures. The latest is Tesla, which has announced a 2-day shutdown at its Shanghai factory. Big challenges for companies operating there, Sharon.
They're already facing challenges, of course, with the situation in Russia/Ukraine. Stephen Carroll, our business editor, thanks so much for joining us.